There are ignorant people who speak flowery words and take delight in the letter of the law, saying that there is nothing else. Their hearts are full of selfish desires. Their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment, and the aim of all of their activities is pleasure and power. The fruit of their actions is continual rebirth. Those whose minds are swept away by the pursuit of pleasure and power are incapable of following the supreme goal and will not attain samadhi.
There are ignorant people who speak flowery words. Now, ignorant people is dealing with the Ajna chakra, the brow chakra, right? Flowery words, throat chakra. Now, follow me because we're going to move our way on down. There are ignorant people who speak flowery words and take delight in the letter of the law, saying that there is nothing else. Their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment. And the aim, remember, the target of all of their activities. So every act that they do, activities is the root chakra, right? Root chakra. So their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment. Very key thing is enjoyment. That's the sacral plexus. That means to have pleasure, enjoyment, desire. All of that's the realm of the sacral plexus. Sexuality, hunger, thirst, so on. It says their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment. So their idea of heaven is the sacral plexus. Meaning they're still trapped in the lowest levels of the seven heavens or the seven worlds. It says in the aim of all of their activities. So it says their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment and the aim of all of their activities. Remember, you have to look at each chakra like a bullseye or like a target, or what the Hindus call it as a mandala or a yantra, a sphere or a diagram. And that represents each gland or each organ inside of your body that presides over certain principles or actions or activities of your body and your nervous system. When it speaks about their idea of heaven as their own enjoyment, they're talking about dopamine, which comes out of the secretion, serotonin, dopamine, all of these different hormones out of the gut, right? And out of the release of the ejaculation or the sexual fluids, the release of the sexual fluids. So hunger, desire, so on, all of these different human impulses based on human biology. It's saying that humans, these people, have these selfish desires that cannot reach the heart. Their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment. And the aim, remember, the target of all of their activities. It says, and the aim of all of their activities is pleasure and power. Key things, sacral plexus, power is the solar plexus, which is will, power. It also represents social positioning and power and influence over other beings. It's called Deva Loka or Indra Loka. Now that basically represents the realm of the gods or the demigods, the lower beings. But they preside and they have control over this whole physical world. They're like the kings and presidents, basically, of the spiritual realm. And they overpower and dominate humans, animals, all of the sentient and all of the entities and sentient beings in this physical world is under the control of the third heaven or Swarga or Deva Loka, the Devas. And they represent power, solar plexus, right? Manipura chakra, right? It says the fruit of all their actions is continual rebirth. So the fruit of these people's actions, because they're stuck mentally with the aim of the activities of the physical world, Bu Loka, Bu, or the root chakra is the lowest dimension before you get into the hellish regions. Because the aim of all of their activities is pleasure and selfish desires. The fruit of their actions, right? The seed was a desire. The fruit of their actions is continual rebirth. They get reincarnated through what? Their desires, obviously through procreation, trapping themselves and their ancestors back in this material world. It's that simple. We'll break down the philosophy in the future, make it plain, lay it all out where you can understand. If you can't grip it, if it's strange to you. Let's keep moving. It says their hearts are full of selfish desires. Now we move on to the heart chakra. It says the heart is full of selfish desires. The heart realm is the realm beyond the realm of duality. And you're supposed to be able to see all beings as one with your own spirit or your own soul, beyond the realm of duality. You, them, me, you, all of these paradoxes and diversities of perception is supposed to just bring you back to the center of the truth, which is before we were all born, before we all created, we all come from the same exact dimension or the same exact being. But it says their hearts full of selfish desires, meaning they cannot see that. They're full of what? Selfish desires that plunges them into the next world. It says their idea of heaven. So their idea of heaven, remember, the kingdom of heaven is what? Within. That's what we're dealing with. The seven heavens, right? The seven realms. It says There are ignorant people who speak flowery words. Now, ignorant people is dealing with the Ajna chakra or the brow chakra, right? Flowery words, throat chakra. Now, follow me because we're gonna move our way on down. It says there are ignorant people who speak flowery words and take delight in the letter of the law, saying that there is nothing else. It says they speak flowery words. Flowery words mean words that are poetic, words that are enticing, right? That's like a lot of your Christian preachers, a lot of your preachers, fake gurus and so on. They speak flowery words. But let's move on. It says, those whose minds are swept away by the pursuit of pleasure and power are incapable of following the supreme goal. So those whose minds are swept away by the pursuit of pleasure and power, remember, sacral plexus, solar plexus, are swept away, whose minds. Now we went from heart chakra, now we're dealing with the mind. It says those whose minds, right, your mind, are swept away, meaning it's taken to the lower worlds, taken through this river of your nadi or your nervous system. Those whose minds are swept away in this river by the pursuit of pleasure and power. Remember, there's three nadis: Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. Sushumna is the only part of the river where it goes north. The only part of your nervous system where it goes north, meaning your mind has to be focused on your true self or the higher truth, not your desires, right? And we'll break it down, but those people, those whose minds are swept away by the pursuit of pleasure and power, are incapable of following the supreme goal. They're incapable of reaching what the supreme target, supreme aim, the supreme chakra, right? The supreme yantra, and hit that target, which would be what? Spiritual liberation or heaven, right? Remember, it says above, their idea of heaven is their own enjoyment. So there's two different heavens here. There's the heaven in the solar plexus on down, that heaven, which is really still in the atmosphere of the sun and the earth. And there's the higher heaven. Remember, as above, so below, as within, so without. These two heavens. There's the lower heaven, like I said, trapped in the sphere of the sun, the realm of the sun, and is the one that is through the gate past the sun, which is where all of the highest beings are. Now, we call them stars, but they're beings of light. That's where we truly originate. That's where we fell from. That's what we are. We are those big beings of hydrogen gas, of atomic particles, photons that fell to this physical world, got trapped in the cycle of the sun, and ended up creating the Bouvard ancestral realm of DNA molecules, microbes, fell lower into more dense matter and became what we see, animals, humans, and so on. So there's two heavens. So we're trying to get past that solar realm into the realm of Mahaloka, the realm of the stars, the third and fourth generation stars. Make our way back to the original being, the black hole, which is the original consciousness before the Big Bang, the big explosion, when all of reality came into creation and the illusion of this reality began. But you are that being in the heart of the black hole, that consciousness. But it says that is the supreme goal. Those whose minds are swept away by the pursuit of pleasure and power, being reincarnated, being reborn, trapped for aeons, for thousands of years. They retard their ability, right? They are swept away by the pursuit of pleasure and power and are capable of following the supreme goal, which is what? Satya Loka, Vaikuntha, heaven, nirvana, many names. And it says, and they will not attain samadhi. Samadhi, sama means to be in union or the same. D means consciousness or the original being. All deities, remember that word deity, daylight, day, devotion, divine, comes from the word di. That means consciousness, light. Samadhi meaning make yourself one with that original light, which is God. Before this physical world came about, that's what you were, that's what we all are. That realm is a realm of total bliss and consciousness beyond measure, beyond the lower pleasures of the physical world. You can even get pleasure from these physical senses and stay here in the material world, which is called Prakriti, or go through the realm of Purusha, which is the heavens, and seek Brahman, or the ultimate highest self and true self beyond the physical illusion of who you are, and become in union with that consciousness, that light, that bliss. So this is the whole Western notion, the hints that we get from Abrahamic traditions and many other religions of heaven. I'm breaking it down to, remember, the kingdom of heaven is within, that's the gate. But those who can't cross that river because they're swept away in the river through the pursuit of pleasure and power. And this, your life is short. You got It's revolving doors. You only have one opportunity. It's either today or it's never. You got a week. Time is ticking. Do you know how to get to the heavenly plane or not? Most of your ancestors never had the opportunity. Remember, because you are them being reborn. Remember, continual rebirth is that's the fruit of those actions for those in the pursuit of pleasure and power. So your ancestors are under the pursuit of pleasure and power, and that's how you got here. And now they're trapped inside of you. See, so ultimately the summary of this is either you get trapped in these lower heavens, the three lower realms, which basically are synonymous with the physical or dense realm of matter, which is the furthest place away from consciousness and bliss, and the spiritual realm. Remember, spiritual means less dense. And you're furthest away from the highest heaven, the seventh heaven, Vaikuntha, Brahmaloka, Shiva Loka, many names, the realm of Satya, the truth or reality. Remember, all of these lower worlds are just different levels of extreme expressions of illusion. The goal of your life should be to get liberated. And that's the mystery of all of the religions, all the spiritual teachings. But we have a problem where we have something that's put before you where governments and kings and even corrupt priests or worldly priests have created a whole nother construct to trap you here under the power of Indra, these devas, these demigods called archons, many names, to create a stumbling block and illusion to trap all of these beings here. Why? Because these beings in the subconscious inside of your body, they eat from the fire of your offering, which is your gastrointestine, and the fire of your organs. They eat that. They are your DNA. They're inside of your gut. And they feed off of energetically all of the sentient beings and humans and animals and plants in this physical world. See, we give them offerings, ritual, day to day. So the goal is to give your offering to the highest being, your own soul, which is God. See, which is the Atman, the atom, the atum, the atom inside of your, deep inside of the recesses of your gut, hidden and cloaked and covered. They say about the Kundalini, with 3 coils. You have to get that soul unraveled through the practice of these spiritual practices. Unravel that energy and let that soul slowly move up, Shushumna, up into the heavenly world. Remember, the kingdom of heaven is within, so is the kingdom of hell. So remember, there's 2 heavens. Choose the higher one, Brahmaloka, Satyaloka, the Sahasrara chakra, thousand lotus petal chakra, or the lower 3, Manipura, Swadhisthana, and Muladhara chakra, solar, sacral group. Your choice, And remember, it says the hearts that have selfish desires, they can never see heaven. You see, that's the gate, that's the crossroads. So with that, hopefully you understand.